We are dude guys are born ready. What's up, everyone? Another Dude
We are
Guy
back.
podcast, a blast from the past. I'm here with fellow dude or guy. Which are you? Dude or
Dude,
guy?
I'm the dude. I can be
You're the
dude.
dude. I'm the guy.
I want
Fair
to be
enough.
dude. I'm coming from California. I certainly would be dude.
You're totally the dude. Well, so sorry, given your itinerant nature, rambling the earth, as it were, on big fat tires. Where do we find you today, Matt? Where are you?
Vermont today. It's the furthest you
Mm,
could probably get away from San Diego.
indeed, and probably also the warmest Vermont has been all year. Am I mistaken?
It probably is.
Today,
Today is the warmest day we've had in the last like 2 or 3 weeks. Yes. It
amazing.
broke.
Shorts,
Yeah,
short
it broke
sleeves and
76
shorts.
degrees. It's amazing. It was sunny
My
because we could see the sun. Amazing. Otherwise, it's been like
Unbelievable. New England.
overcast. Yeah.
New England is a cruel mistress, as my West Coast friends often discover. So I'm glad that you did get some sun. But we're not here to talk about Vermont. We're here to talk about Unbound Gravel. And I'm super excited to do this podcast with you. And just grateful as also, just to say, put it out there, Matt was there on site to crew myself and fellow teammate Corey in terms of getting through this 200-mile race. And it was probably not that different than maybe having a baby. Like, it took a long time. It was like 9 months of like preparation and building and planning and shopping ahead of time to make sure it all works. And then the day comes and you're like, oh my God, what have we done? So I'm super excited to talk to you about this exhausting long-term race, etc. that is Unbound. I'm going to pull up. I'll pull up the screen now so folks can see. Just have one shot here from the homepage of Unbound Gravel. Quite honestly, this was the most green I think I'd seen in Kansas. Even in the race, it wasn't this green. But I did like this picture because you can see a long line of people. You can see the relentless rolling hills, and you can see that one dude walking, and you can even tell from this far away, like how tiny that dude is. That dude is like, I am broken. Like, I'm so broken. Like, this
That's a
course
long
has
way to
broken
go.
me. It is a long way to go, my friends. This is,
Yeah.
if I
It's a long
recall
walk.
correctly, sort of around mile 170 to about 190-ish, coming back, heading west to east, tailwind at your back. So it's just super hot and trying to get through these hills that you're like, how could there possibly be another hill in Kansas? Did we not use them all? So with that said, talk to us a little bit, Matt, about what is Unbound Gravel, right? What is this race in the
What
middle of nowhere? Why do people from all around the world come to this thing?
What is Unbound Gravel? Yeah, so it's part of the Lifetime series. 200 miles is the flavor that you and Corey chose. You could pick lots of other flavors. You could pick 25, 50, 100, or 350, so you could be out riding your bike for hours on end if you wanted to. Yeah, it somehow got like iconic, Leadville, Kona like status in the gravel world. It's like it's the biggest, baddest gravel race. And now, like, even the Europeans are coming over for this particular race. I think just because of its nature, because of its length, and then like kind of we talked about, like, you get all different kinds of gravel here. You get big gravel, you get gravel, small gravel, chunky gravel, dirt, rocks, different. It's like Eskimos and snow. You get like, there's so many different kinds of gravel in this particular race. And the race is like 99% on gravel, So some folks are trying, they call it like the Super Bowl of gravel, which is really kind of weird because it's like I don't know, it's like late May. So it's kind of early in the race season, so it's like, but yeah, I think it's in the gravel world has, maybe, yeah, anyway, the gravel world, it's got bona fides. It's got like some, you go to Unbound Gravel or do Unbound Gravel. It's like, I've done Kona, I've done Leadville, those kind of icon. Why do you think it's so big? Why do you think it's why did Unbound, appeal to you?
Well, definitely it fits in the category of bucket list, like in terms of like it has what it takes. It's got the palmares, if you will. So it's got the distance down, so you get your options to choose from. Gravel, obviously different. 200 miles on gravel, very different than 200 miles on road. And so when you think about how to be successful in a long course race, you're saying to yourself like, oh, how do I get to a place where I can do that long of a ride? So it's like, it's long. It's going to take you a long time. Number two, like you said, it's got a ton of gravel. Like, I think people don't understand just how much dirt there is out there inside Kansas. I'll pull up the image here so folks can see all of those dotted lines, all of these white and red stripes. That's gravel, my friends. And so you can see that there's like a little tiny bit here, and like maybe some here, and like a little bit at the end. That's the part where you're on roads. Those are like pit stops, intersections, etc., or in and out of Emporia, as it were, on either side. There's a ton of dirt. You get a lot of dirt for your race day dollar here, and it's a great way to sort of experience what it means to race in the conditions of an epic race. So by that I mean this isn't a place where you're going to find an aid station every 10 miles. This isn't like an Ironman. This is like you get 2 aid stations. But there are literally 2 aid stations for a 202-mile race for us, and so you got to start doing some serious math. So it's epic like that. And then I think for depending on where you live, it's rare to be in a place where you're racing and there's really nothing around you. You know, I think a lot of our European friends, and we talked about this a little bit after the race, like a lot of our European friends are used to being like, oh, like there's a town somewhere. There are not a lot of towns. We have like, here's a town, there's a town. The difference between those 2 towns is like in a straight line is like 50 miles, right? So you could ride from some of these towns and go in a 50-mile radius and not hit another town, which is mind-boggling to our friends in Europe, other parts of the world. And so for me, it really ended up being sort of like a stretch race. And then also, I guess it's kind of popular. I'm not going to lie. It's kind of popular because it's popular, right? There's sort of that like effect where it feeds on itself. So, the pros are going to be there. So it's kind of neat to geek out around the pros, and, the expo is going to hit and things are going to be super fun. So for me, it was kind of up there on the list of things to do as a gravel race. And I needed something big for this year to get my act together, pull some training together, etc. So for me, that was like the big thing that really kind of fired it up around like about what I thought a great race would look like for me. But it was I think the logistics and the environment of the race are what really stood out to me. Like I was like, oh, this is a proper challenge. Like tough course with lots of support, right? Minimal support, but like not such a hard course like a road course, meh. But like minimal support in the middle of nowhere with potential for 90-degree temperature with all of the pros that you follow and love on gravel, like I would sign up twice for the same one race. Like, I mean, come on, like that's just unbelievable as far as I'm concerned. So is it a race that you would do, my friend, or is this a race that you'd say, meh, doesn't fit my bucket?
Yeah, for now it doesn't fit my bucket. Yeah. So I don't, yeah. So I'm in a weird space right now where I haven't decided what my next challenge is going to be, but yeah, watching you guys though go through the race was super fun though.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the course itself. Cause I think as we sort of intro to this race, intro to this podcast, I think it's important to kind of set the stage for everyone in terms of what we were tackling. So we knew we were signed up for a 200-mile race. We knew you could do some basic gravel math, which is gravel math can only be done after having ridden a gravel bike for a while in your local neighborhood and then having to adjust your speeds accordingly, which essentially is about 1.5 times any road mile you would have. So if a road mile takes you 3 minutes, a gravel mile takes you like 4.5. Just saying. Good math right there. So do that math. So if you ride, if it takes you like in an hour, you can ride 20 miles, on a gravel bike, you're going to ride like 15, maybe 14.
Yeah,
it kind of takes a lot longer than you think. So when you're doing the math on this and you're saying, oh, a 200-mile race, if I average 15 miles an hour on my gravel bike by myself, and I've got to go 200 miles, that's a lot of numbers and parentheses, asterisks and division signs in there, but it's a long ass time. You're talking, and if it takes you 3 15s to get to 45 and you got 4 45s, you're talking like 12 hours of time out there, plus or minus, to survive this race, which is just a gargantuan number to look at. Then you add in the terrain, 11,000 feet of climbing for us, and the temperature, mid to high 80s. And all of a sudden, this course starts to resemble the challenges that you see at like Kona with the heat, but also adding in the challenges of like intermittent aid stations and the terrain. It was a big challenge. I don't know, like in terms of like difficulty of race to prepare for, I felt like this was pretty off the charts, right? Especially because we also didn't know what the weather was going to be like. Is it going to be, we knew we were going north, which is technically less muddy, but if it was going to rain, and it did rain during race week, there's more mud, right? Versus dry. Dries faster, nastier with the rocks, but definitely comes with like a consequence of like, things can go wrong. And then also on the sticky side, when you get stuck in the mud, you're done. So when you think about preparing for this race, and I know you were helping Corey and you gave me a great deal of insight as well, what are some of the key parameters you think about? Like, it's not just volume. You can't just go out and say, I'm gonna ride 12 hours. I'm good. Like, check that box. What are some of the key factors that you focus on?
Yeah. So I guess what I was really thinking about is that like, uh, I mean, you end up relying a lot on RPE, because I think, your power targets, your heart rate, all those things that you typically would use as metrics in, like, say, the triathlon or something like that, or a shorter version of the race, like kind of get thrown out the window, because like by the time you're, on the 10th or 12th hour, like your power is so low, or what you're typically used to looking at, that like, it's not a useful number for you anymore. And then your heart rate, then based on you're riding for that long, are going to have, some heart rate drift, so your heart rate's kind of out of whack. So I think kind of preparing for that, I think, is, riding by RPE and figuring out what is like your all day pace that you can ride. And then, the heat. And then I think the last, like the heat, because we know it's going to be hot. And then, problem solving of like, it's going to be a long day. You're going to feel 10 years older when you get off the bike, because of like the chapter and verse of the things that you went through. Like, I saw the thing and a cow, and then we crossed the water, and it was like, I got hot, and then I cramped, and you just have so many events that happen to you during those, during that time frame. You're just going to have to constantly be problem solving under pressure. So I think those are tough things to train for, because you can only go to the well so many times in preparation, right? You can't like run the marathon before the marathon. It's like same kind of thing. When we were talking with Corey's training, it's like, you want to have the confidence that you've done enough to get ready for it. But at the same time, you can't do so much that you're going to bury yourself before the race.
Right. Then you are not ready for it. You are decidedly unready.
Right. Because
can't be unready.
So you can't go, say, I'm going to go ride for 10 or 12 hours, as a race prep, because it would take you several weeks just to recover from just that kind of race rehearsal. So I think that the anxiety and the unknown, I think, is I think definitely is an added stressor for everybody going into that race, even the pros.
Yeah. Good call out on those factors for sure. I would add, for me, was just like, things that I was focusing on was like infrastructure. Like, having done some longer race rides, I know that like my body, like my back, my core, just general strength really starts to fail as a bigger athlete. It's just, there's more of me to hold up on top of the bars, and so was trying to spend some time thinking about that as well, to get myself ready. I also embrace the early season, because it is May, getting into May, June. Like, there's not a lot of outdoor riding you can do here in the Northeast, as you are well aware, to prepare for the race. So you can't, even if you wanted to do a 10-hour ride, first of all, it probably didn't have that much daylight until a few weeks before the race anyway. But B, the temperatures were just so cold. You're starting and it's in the 30s, high 30s, low 40s, just to get rides done. And while you can get time on the bike, it's not the same, and I think that was sort of like a real factor. I did my best. I went out and got some, I'll pull it up here for you to see, like try to get the heat surfaces going, get the whole heat going. So let me see if I can show this. There we go. I'll add it. Which shows an easier way to kind of share all the things here. There we go.
Oh yeah, your paint suit. Yeah. So
so I got the paint suit.
Yeah. Yep. So Corey had the same problem in Michigan. We wanted to have her do some heat training, and so she went to the sauna and was just doing sauna after her workouts to get the core temperature up and to get her, the plasma up, and just your body used to sweating. You did not have access to the sauna, so you went paint suit on the bike.
Paint suit. Yes, totally. Which was epic and gross and nasty and all the things that you would imagine. But that's all that I really had options to, because it wasn't hot enough for sure around here. So you have to kind of think about what are all the different factors that you can account for and then train for. And that was one of them, was the heat, for sure. Because I know, again, with my background racing hot races, I know how much the heat can be debilitating. And then the last piece that I wanted to train for, but I really couldn't, which was like riding riding fast on dirt in a group. Like there's riding fast on a bike, and then there's riding fast on a bike in a group, and then there's riding fast on a bike in a group on dirt, which is very different. And I don't have those opportunities here. I don't have like a local weekend, smackdown ride or something. And that was something that I really couldn't prepare for. But I knew it was going to be an important part of my day, which is like, how long can I ride in this group? What's it like to ride in this group? How do I make smart decisions in a group? And I continue to think that, aside obviously from like my size and obviously my extremely advanced age, poor decision making, my distinct lack of like bike racing experience is one of my biggest limiters. I think people who race bikes just make better decisions. Like they just know how to do it in an innate way, like learn through years, that like I am constantly in the wrong position on the board. I'm like, checkmate again. I'm like, what the hell? Like okay, let me move the piece. Checkmate again. Like what? Which is sort of the story of my first part of my race for sure. So I think that there's also a learning curve, which I think can be really helpful. And actually part of the exciting part about races like this is that you can go back and say, oh, I'm going to do these 4 or 5 things. And just given the nature of the duration of the race, you'll see a pretty marked improvement of like, hey, you could maybe get a half hour back or some version of that, depending on how poor your decision-making was earlier or how unfortunate you were. You can solve for those things later. But let's talk a little bit about equipment, because we did have some serious equipment conversations leading into Unbound as well. That's probably the bulk of our group chat working together. My big decision was, how big do I go with my tires? My Cannondale Super 6 came with like 38s on it, which I've been riding 38s for 2 years. And I decided that like I was going to go big. I got a little crazy with my Dylan Johnson subscription here on YouTube and did the math on the bigger tires, found a tire, bought 40s because I was like, 40s because I was like, I can be bigger, but I want to leave room for the mud. And then I was like, you know what? Actually, I want to go as big as I can get inside these tires. I want 45s. And I was going to ride those unless it was going to be super muddy. I brought the 40s with me, but I wanted to ride bigger. And I only got one ride in here at home on the tires, but it was definitely a game changer for me on some of the rockier New England terrain, like lower PSI, smoother ride, and could just eat up almost anything, roots, big rocks, all the stuff that normally I have to go around or just throw me around. I didn't have to deal with. And that played out well on the race because there was like less mud, but that was like my critical decision factor was like, what kind of tires do I go with on this bike? But what else would people be thinking about for Unbound in terms of like equipment selection choices?
Yeah, I'd say that probably the priorities for I think for you and Corey, I think were primarily around tires, like getting a wide enough tire that still gave you mud clearance, because some years, if it got muddy, like you're clearing your mud from your tires with a paint stick, so that was the, it's not trivial mud, it's not like, I just can get in there and like, it'll break free. This is like fork clogging, back triangle clogging mud. So, yeah, tire width, going as wide as you can, but still having confidence that you're going to clear mud. And then I think the next part is, and then you had to solve for this too, is because there's only 4 aid stations. Let's just call them checkpoints, because they're not really aid stations, because there's 4 places. There's 4 places where you can get water, and 2 of them you can get food. Like just you mentioned, it's not Ironman where there's, right, course provided support, right? So like 2 places where you get water, and then 2 places where you meet your crew. Otherwise, you got to be prepared to carry your food and water for 3 or 4 hours, So, hydration pack, and then carrying enough water in your triangle. So Corey is a small human being, so she has 2 bottles on her bike, and then was carrying a 2-liter hydration pack. You, being a larger human being, found a way to carry 3 bottles on your bike, because you can put another one in your triangle, which I thought was, plus you need more water. So it worked out really well. But yeah, I think the key was solving for tires, and then how you're going to carry your fuel is like, I think the next is the hardest thing to solve for. It's like getting the calories that you're going to need. And are they coming from fluids? Are they coming from, snacks that you're eating? And then where are you carrying those snacks, in your pockets, and a bento box? So yeah. I think tires, water, and fuel, how you carry those stuff, and was a bulk of the pre-race discussions of where you're going to, where are we going to find how much water do I really carry? Cause we talked about you carrying an extra bladder. We tried that one. Like you're carrying 2 bladders. That wasn't gonna fly. But,
yeah, totally. Like we talked about this, we went through and like put everything out there, on my bed. And we said like, hey, how do you fit all this in your pockets and bags? And some of these went to a checkpoint. Some of these were like in supply bags. Some of these were with me, or in my hydration pack, like as backups. We had a spare tube under the seat. We added that. We had a mechanical bag. And then we had the like sort of a simple fix bag, or the flat bag and the mechanical bag, so we could sort of sort out what I would need in case of emergency, which is like super helpful for me. But just to give folks at home like a sense of like all the stuff you had to carry, it's a lot of stuff. Like it's just a lot of stuff, and it adds up over time. Like it weighs on you literally. I would say like as another version of something to think about. If I were to go back, I would definitely think about some form of like aero bar, like with the winds blowing as they were, and the second half of the course was much more open, like less people. I could have spent time down in some form of aero bar, even if it was like a shorty, just to change my position a little bit, take a little bit of like redistribute the weight, and also just be more aerodynamic. I think there's probably some space inside there that would have been valuable for me. As another alternative option. I'm not saying that everyone needs that. Like some people may just appreciate it for like a change of position, or redistribution of weight, like I said. But for me, definitely at the end of the race, when the wind was like, when the winds were blowing head and I'm on a flat open road in a prairie, I'm like, I wish I was like 83% of my current size sitting up on this bike, which is what aero bars would do. And I was in the drops, but I'm like, I still feel like a gigantic box being blown around on these planes. So I would add that as a potential consideration for gears. You're thinking about the effects of the duration of time on you, and like what gear selections can you make that help you address the sheer amount of time that you're going to spend out there on the course. Okay, so then as we wrap up part 1 here. So then we got to the race. So we got on site, we arrived. Corey first, me second, you third. We did like a shakeout ride the day before. On Thursday, we shook out on the roads because it was wet. It had rained a couple times during the week, and the sloppy mud was sloppy. Like Kansas mud is crazy sloppy. It's also peanut buttery, so it's not only slippery, but it's peanut buttery. So if you get it on your bike, it's not coming off like anything. And as a result, we didn't want to ride on it because we don't want to spend like the rest of our entire day trying to clean a bike in a dorm shower, which is not going to happen. And then on Friday, I went out for a shorter ride, maybe just 20 miles, and just got to experience, like, it was good for me to kind of visual, like ride out the start and then ride back in the finish to kind of get a sense of those two components, which is nice to sort of set me up and spend a little bit of time on the dirt, which is a lot drier by Friday, and which boded well for Saturday. Another chance to test things out. Thursday, I tested out the new 3-liter pack from Usui that I had, which is now just even too big for me. It's like having 2 extra heads on top of my already existing large head. It was just like obviously amazingly attractive and like a really good idea to have more brains, but wildly uncomfortable and not sustainable over time. And so decided to take that off, which was actually probably the best decision I made pre-race in terms of like what not to do. And that's not always about like, what am I going to do? It's also sometimes about like, hey, what am I not doing this race day to define how I was going to handle fueling and pacing, et cetera. So that was like a big prep for me. And then obviously, as you saw, all the gear, like going through that and making the decisions and pulling it all together was super important. What else about those last 2 days that were sort of critical, aside from going to the expo, wandering around, meeting all sorts of people, hanging out and enjoying the Kansas vibe? Anything stand out?
It was, for me, it was, helping understand what Corey's priorities were about what was important to her at each one of the aid stations, and what was important to you. And then, having both of you understand like what's going to happen, and so that we don't get to the aid station and then, use up a bunch of time, either like fumbling around, the time that we could spend doing something else, trying to make that as efficient as possible. And then also try to get the most information from you about what you need, and spending the time, coaching with Corey, and then watching you and talking to you at Leadville. I kind of, you know, it's very helpful to be able to know you as a personality of like, when you come into the aid station, like, is Patrick functioning well? Is Patrick not functioning well? You know,
Yes.
that kind of thing.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
it was getting the details of like, how are you carrying your equipment? How is Corey carrying her equipment? What things are important to her? What things are important to you? And then, you know, how to get
Mm.
those things done efficiently the 2 times I'm going to see you during that race.
Mm. Hmm. Hmm. That's actually a great point, and I'm glad you called that out, because you're right. Like, a great race is built on um, a super high execution in those key moments. Like, you've only got so much time, or you only want to spend so much time. There's key things that you need to do, and there's a definitive order. Like, it's sort of like putting people onto a plane. Depending on the airline you choose, some of them just let you wander on and pick a seat. And you can see people standing in line for like 7 minutes just waiting to get to their seat. They can't do it, and the plane is not taking off. And the flight attendants are freaking out. The pilot's like, "Let's go. Is this mic on? Like, what's going on back there?" And then you flip forward to what it means for in a race scenario. And if you start with the wrong thing, it'll take you twice as long. You know, if you don't take off your pack now and you do your pack later, then I can't put stuff in my pockets properly because I still have the pack out, right? Or if I don't do my sunglasses in the aid station, I leave them on my helmet, then I'll leave and I won't be able to see it on my sunglasses for the next 78 miles. Less than optimal, right? If I don't actually eat or drink when I pull in, then I've got to eat and drink when I'm riding out, which means like less hands on the bike, less time to absorb. If I miss my sunscreen, I pay a price, etc. So there was a process, kind of like a pit crew. And it's actually, to me, it's kind of fun. Like, I look forward to the pit because it's like, how am I going to execute this and do it well? And what's the best way to go through it? We have had time together, so I know how you operate. And I think one of your secret weapons is that process mindset about getting it right. Because there's a million ways to do it wrong, and you see it all around you, where people like forget key things or do the wrong thing. And so, yeah, definitely having a pit plan for your staff, the people who are helping you, as much as for you as the athlete. Because when you're both in alignment, it's fantastic. If you're like wandering around looking for pickle juice while your team is trying to find you for sunscreen and no one's touching your bike, by the time you come back and solve your pickle juice sunscreen problem, no one's touched your bike. Your drivetrain's still a piece of crap. How are you going to ride another 100 miles on that thing without, mud and grit on it, etc.? So there's definitely a system there for sure, which is awesome. All right. Well, that's it. So we're going to go to bed. It's the night before the race. Who can possibly sleep? We have to be up. Race starts at 6:30. Pro men start 5:45. Pro women start 6 or 6:05. So early start in the morning, cool temperatures. And looks like it's going to be a fantastic day as I tell myself tiny little bedtime songs that I had ChatGPT write for me about riding my bike in the middle of Kansas, middle of nowhere, which I will share with no one because they're classics and obviously will be stolen and used against me. So with that, we will finish part 1 and we'll be back in a minute for part 2.